మా జీవనం నీరులేని చేపవేదనం సన్నిధే మాకు పెన్నిధి నీదు చూపే ప్రాణ సమానం నీకు మాకు ఒకే బంధము అది ప్రేమ బంధము.
गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्रयवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ नमो भगवते रुद्राय ॐ नमस्ते रुद्रमण्यव उतोत इषवे नमः नमस्ते अस्तु धन्वने बाहुभ्यामुत ते नमः यात इषुः शिवतमा शिवं बभूव ते धनुः शिवा शरव्यायातवतया नो रुद्रमृडया याते रुद्रशिवा तनूरघोरा पापकाशिनी तया नस्तनुवाशन्तमया गिरिशन्ताभिचाकशीः यामिषुं गिरिशन्तहस्ते बिभर्ष्यस्तवे शिवाङ्गिरित्रतां कुरु माहि गुंसेः पुरुषं जगत् शिवेन वचसा त्वा गिरिशाच्छावदामसि यथा नः सर्वमिज्जगदयक्ष्मगुं सुमना असत् अध्यवोचदधिवक्ता प्रथमो दैव्योऽभिषक् अहेगश्च सर्वाञ्जम्भयन् सर्वाश्च यातु धान्यः असौ यस्ताम्रो अरुण उत बभ्रुः सुमङ्गलः ये चेमागुं रुद्रा अभितो दिक्षुश्रिता सहस्रशो वैशागुं हेडयेमहे असव्यो वसर्पति नीलग्रीवो विलोहितः उतैनं गोपा अदृशन्नदृशन्नुदहार्यः उतैनं विश्वा भूतानि सदृष्टो मृडयाति नः नमो अस्तु नीलग्रीवाय सहस्राक्षाय मीढुषे अथो ये अस्य सत्त्वानो हन्तेभ्यो करन्नमः प्रमुञ्च धन्वनस्त्वमुभयोरात्नियोर्जाम् याश्च ते हस्त इषवः पराता भगवो वप अवतत्यधनुस्त्वगुं सहस्राक्षशते शुधे निशीर्य शल्यानां मुखा शिवो नः सुमना भव विज्यं धनुः कपर्दिनो विशल्यो बाणवागुम् उत अनेशन्नस्येषव आभुरस्य निषङ्गतिः या ते हेतुर्मीढुष्टमहस्ते बभूव ते धनुः तयास्मान् विश्वतस्त्वमयक्ष्मया परिभुजा नमस्ते अस्त्वायुधाय नातताय धृष्णवे उभाभ्यामुत ते नमो बाहुभ्यां तव धन्वने परिते धन्वनो हेतिरस्मान् वृणत्तु विश्वतः अथो य इषुधिस्तवारे अस्मन्निधेहितम् नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यम्बकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः नमो हिरण्यबाहवे सेनान्ये दिशाञ्च पतये नमो नमो वृक्षेभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यः पशूनां पतये नमो नमः सस्पिञ्जराय त्विषीमते पथीनां पतये नमो नमो बभ्लुषाय व्याधिनेन्नानां पतये नमो नमो हरिकेशायोपवीतिने पुष्टानां पतये नमो नमो भवस्य हेत्यै जगतां पतये नमो नमो रुद्राय तताविने क्षेत्राणां पतये नमो नमः सूताय हन्त्याय वनानां पतये नमो नमो रोहिताय स्थपतये वृक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो मन्त्रिणे वाणिजाय कक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो भुवन्तये वारिवस्कृताय औषधीनां पतये नमो नम उच्चैर्घोषाय क्रन्दयते पत्रीणां पतये नमो नमः कृत्स्नवेताय धावते सत्त्वनां पतये नमः नमः सहमानाय निव्याधिन आव्याधिनीनां पतये नमो नमः ककुभाय निषङ्गिणे स्तेनानां पतये नमो नमो निषङ्गिण इषुधिमते तस्कराणां पतये नमो नमो वञ्चते परिवञ्चते स्तायूनां पतये नमो नमो निचेरवे परिचरायारण्यानां पतये नमो नमः श्रुकाविभ्यो जिघागुंसद्भ्यो मुष्णतां पतये नमो नमो सिमद्भ्यो नक्तं चरद्भ्यः प्रकृन्तानां पतये नमो नम उष्णीषिणे गिरिचराय कुलुञ्चानां पतये नमो नम इषुमद्भ्यो धन्वाविभ्यश्च वो नमो नम आतन्वानेभ्यः प्रतिदधानेभ्यश्च वो नमो नम आयच्छद्भ्यो विसृजद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमोऽस्यद्भ्यो विद्यद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नम आसीनेभ्यः शयानेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः स्वपद्भ्यो जाग्रद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमस्तिष्ठद्भ्यो धावद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो अश्वेभ्योऽश्वपतिभ्यश्च वो नमः नम आव्याधिनीभ्यो विविध्यन्तेभ्यश्च वो नमो नम उगणाभ्यस्तृगुंहतेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो गृत्सेभ्यो गृत्सपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो व्रातेभ्यो व्रातपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो गणेभ्यो गणपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो विरूपेभ्यो विश्वरूपेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो महद्भ्यः क्षुल्लकेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो रथिभ्यो रथेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो रथेभ्यो रथपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः सेनाभ्यः सेनानिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः क्षत्रुभ्यः संग्रहेतृभ्यश्च वो नमो नमस्तक्षद्भ्यो रथकारेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः कुलालेभ्यः कर्मारेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः पुञ्जिष्टेभ्यो निषादेभ्यश्च वो नमो नम इषुकृद्भ्यो धन्वकृद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमो मृगयुभ्यश्वनिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः श्वभ्यश्वपतिभ्यश्च वो नमः नमो भवाय च रुद्राय च नमः शर्वाय च पशुपतये च नमो नीलग्रीवाय च शितिकण्ठाय च नमः कपर्दिने च व्युप्तकेशाय च नमः सहस्राक्षाय च शतधन्वने च नमो गिरिशाय च शिपिविष्टाय च नमो मेढुष्टमाय चेषुमते च नमो ह्रस्वाय च वामनाय च नमो बृहते च वर्षीयसे च नमो वृद्धाय च संवृध्वने च नमो अग्र्याय च प्रथमाय च नमः आशवे चाजिराय च नमः शीघ्र्याय च शेभ्याय च नमः ऊर्म्याय चावस्वन्याय च नमः स्रोतस्याय च द्वीप्याय च नमो ज्येष्ठाय च कनिष्ठाय च नमः पूर्वजाय चापरजाय च नमो मध्यमाय चापगल्भाय च नमो जघन्याय च बुद्ध्याय च नमः सोऽभ्याय च प्रतिसर्याय च नमो याम्याय च क्षेम्याय च नमः उर्वर्याय च खल्याय च नमः श्लोक्याय चावसान्याय च नमो वन्याय च कक्ष्याय च नमः श्रवाय च प्रतिश्रवाय च नमः आशुषेणाय चाशुरथाय च नमः शूराय चावभिन्दते च नमो वर्मिणे च वरूथिने च नमो बिल्मिने च कवचिने च नमः श्रुताय च श्रुतसेनाय च नमो दुन्दुभ्याय च हनन्याय च नमो धृष्णवे च प्रमृषाय च नमो दूताय च प्रहिताय च नमो निषङ्गिणे चेषुधिमते च नमस्तीक्ष्णेशवे चायुधिने च नमः स्वायुधाय च सुधन्वने च नमः श्रुत्याय च पथ्याय च नमः काट्याय च नीप्याय च नमः सोद्याय च सरस्याय च नमो नाद्याय च वैशन्ताय च नमः कूप्याय च वट्याय च नमो वर्ष्याय च वर्ष्याय च नमो मेघ्याय च विद्युत्याय च नमः ईध्र्याय च तप्याय च नमो वात्याय च रेश्म्याय च नमो वास्तव्याय च वास्तुपाय च ॐ हर 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 ॐ नमः सोमाय च रुद्राय च नमस्ताम्राय च रुणाय च नमः शङ्गाय च पशुपतये च नमः उग्राय च भीमाय च नमो अग्रे वधाय च दूरे वधाय च नमो हन्त्रे च हनीयसे च नमो वृक्षेभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यो नमस्ताराय नमः शम्भवे च मयो भवे च नमः शङ्कराय च मयस्कराय च नमः शिवाय च शिवतराय च नमस्तीर्थ्याय च कूल्याय च नमः पार्याय च वार्याय च नमः प्रतरणाय चोत्तरणाय च नमः आतार्याय चालाद्याय च नमः षष्प्याय च फेन्याय च नमः सिकत्याय च प्रवाह्याय च नमः इरण्याय च प्रपथ्याय च नमः किगुंशिलाय च क्षयणाय च नमः कपर्दिने च पुलस्तये च नमो गोष्ठ्याय च गृह्याय च नमस्तल्प्याय च गेह्याय च नमः काट्याय च गह्वरेष्ठाय च नमो हृदयाय च निवेश्प्याय च नमः पागुंसव्याय च रजस्याय च नमः शुष्क्याय च हरित्याय च नमो लोप्याय चोलप्याय च नमः ऊर्व्याय च सूर्म्याय च नमः पर्ण्याय च पर्णशद्याय च नमोपगुरमाणाय चाभिघ्नते च नमः आखिदते च प्रखिदते च नमो वः किरिकेभ्यो देवानागुं हृदयेभ्यो नमो विक्षीणकेभ्यो नमो विचिन्वत्केभ्यो नमः आनिर्हतेभ्यो नमः आमीवत्केभ्यः द्रापे अन्धसस्पते दरिद्रन्नीललोहिता येषां पुरुषाणामेषां पशूनां माभेर्मा रोमो येषां किञ्चनाममत् या ते रुद्रशिवा तनो शिवा विश्वाह भेषजी शिवा रुद्रस्य भेषजी तया नो मृडजीवसे इमागुं रुद्राय तवसे कपर्दिने क्षयद्वेराय प्रभरामहे मतिं यथा नः शमसद्विपदे चतुष्पदे विश्वं पुष्टं ग्रामे अस्मिन्ननातुरम् मृडानो रुद्रो तनो मयस्कृधि क्षयद्वेराय नमसा विधेमते यच्छञ्च योश्च मनुरायजे पिता तदश्याम तव रुद्रः प्रणीतो मानो महान्तमुतमानो अर्भकं मान उक्षन्तमुतमान उक्षितम् मानो वधेः पितरं मोत मातरं प्रियामानस्तनुवो रुद्ररीर्षः मानस्तोकेतनये मान आयुषि मानो गोषु मानो अश्वेषु रीर्षः वीरान् मानो रुद्रभामितो वधेर्हविष्मन्तो नमसा विधेमते आरात्ते गोघ्न उत पूरुषघ्ने क्षयद्वेराय सुम्नमस्मेते अस्तु रक्षा च नो अधि च देव ब्रूह्यधा च नः शर्म यच्छद्विबर्हाः तु हि श्रुतं गर्त सदंयुवानं मृगन्न भीममुपहक्तृमुग्रम् मृडाचरित्रे रुद्रस्तवानो अन्यन्ते अस्मन्निवपन्तु सेनाः परिणो रुद्रस्य हेतर्वृणत्तु परित्वेषस्य दुर्मतिरघायोः अवस्थिरा मघवद्भ्यस्तनुष्वमेध्वस्तोकायतनयाय मृडया मीढुष्टम शिवतम शिवो नः सुमना भवा परमे वृक्ष आयुधन् निधाय कृत्तिं वसान आचर पिनाकम् बिभ्रदागहि विकिरित विलोहित नमस्ते अस्तु भगवः यास्ते सहस्रगुं हेतयोऽन्यमस्मन्निवपन्तु ताः सहस्राणि सहस्रधा बाहुवोस्तव हेतयः तासामीशानो भगवः पराचीनामुखाकृधि सहस्राणि सहस्रशो ये रुद्रा अधिभूम्याम् तेषागुं सहस्रयोजने वधन्वानि तन्मसि अस्मिन्महत्यर्णवेऽन्तरिक्षे भवा अधि नीलग्रीवा शितिकण्ठा शर्वा अधः क्षमाचराः नीलग्रीवा शितिकण्ठा दिवगुं रुद्रा उपश्रिताः ये वृक्षेषु सस्पिञ्जरा नीलग्रीवा विलोहिताः ये भूतानामधिपतयो विशिखासः कपर्दिनः ये अन्येषु विविध्यन्ति पात्रेषु पिबतो जनान् ये पथां पथि रक्षय ऐलभृदायव्युधः ये तीर्थानि प्रचरन्ति श्रुकावन्तो निषङ्गिणः य एतावन्तश्च भूयागुंसश्च दिशो रुद्रावितस्थिरे तेषागुं सहस्रयोजने वधन्वानि तन्मसि नमो रुद्रेभ्यो ये पृथिव्यां येऽन्तरिक्षे ये दिवि येषामन्नं वातो वर्षमिषभस्तेभ्यो दश प्राचीर्दश दक्षिणादश प्रतीचीर्दशोदीचीर्दशोर्ध्वास्तेभ्यो नमस्ते नो मृडयन्तु तेयं द्विष्मो यश्च नो द्वेष्टितं वोजम्भे दधामि त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् यो रुद्रो अग्नौ यो अप्सु य ओषधीषु यो रुद्रो विश्वा भुवना विवेश तस्मै रुद्राय नमो अस्तु ये ते सहस्रमयुतं पाशा मृत्यो मर्त्याय हन्तवे तान् यज्ञस्य मायया सर्वानवयजामहे मृत्यवे स्वाहा मृत्यवे स्वाहा प्राणानां ग्रन्थिरसि रुद्रो मा विशान्तकः तेनान्येनाप्यायस्व नमो रुद्राय विष्णवे मृत्युर्मे पाहि तमुष्टुहि यस्त्विषुः सुधन्वायो विश्वस्य क्षयति भेषजस्य यक्ष्वा महेशौ मनसाय रुद्रं नमोभिर्देवमसुरन्दुवस्य अयं मे हस्तो भगवानयं मे भगवत्तरः अयं मे विश्वभेषजो यगुं शिवाभिमर्शनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
शञ्च मे मयश्च मे प्रियञ्च मेऽनुकामश्च मे कामश्च मे सौमनसश्च मे भद्रं च मे श्रेयश्च मे वस्यश्च मे यशश्च मे भगश्च मे द्रविणं च मे यन्ता च मे धर्ता च मे क्षेमश्च मे धृतिश्च मे विश्वं च मे महश्च मे संविच्च मे ज्ञात्रं च मे सोश्च मे प्रसोश्च मे सीरं च मे लयश्च मरुतं च मे मृतं च मे यक्ष्मं च मे नामयच्च मे जीवातुश्च मे दीर्घायुत्वं च मे न मित्रं च मे भयं च मे सुगं च मे शयनं च मे सुषा च मे सुदिनं च मे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ఓం స్వస్తి ప్రజాభ్యః పరిపాలయంతాం న్యాయేన మార్గేణ మహీం మహిషాః గోబ్రాహ్మణేభ్యः శుభమస్తు నిత్యం సమస్తలోకాః సుఖినో భవంతు సమస్తలోకాః సుఖినో భవంతు సమస్తలోకాః సుఖినో భవంతు ఓం శాంతి శాంతి శాంతి.
తత్సవితుర్వరేణ్యం భర్గో దేవస్య ధీమహి ధియో యో నః ప్రచోదయాత్. భూర్భువస్సువః తత్సవితుర్వరేణ్యం భర్గో దేవస్య ధీమహి ధియో యో నః ప్రచోదయాత్. భూర్భువస్సువః తత్సవితుర్వరేణ్యం భర్గో దేవస్య ధీమహి ధియో యో నః ప్రచోదయాత్.
శివుని కుమార శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో ప్రభో శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో. శ్రీ గణేశ శివుని కుమార శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో ప్రభో శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో. శ్రీ గణనాథ సేవిత పాద శ్రీ గణనాథ సేవిత పాద శ్రీ గణనాథ సేవిత పాద నాగతి నీవని నమ్మితి సదా నాగాభరణాననుదయ గుణవా. శ్రీ గణేశ శివుని కుమార శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో ప్రభో శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో. ఇద్దరి తల్లుల ముద్దు కుమార ఇద్దరి తల్లుల ముద్దు కుమార ఇద్దరి తల్లుల ముద్దు కుమార భక్తుడనై తిని వద్ద చేపరా బుద్ధి కృపను నాకు సగి ప్రోవరా. శ్రీ గణేశ శివుని కుమార శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో ప్రభో శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో. పగరిగ సరిని సదా ధని పాపద మామ పగ సగరా ధని సదని రే ధగరి సదని స గమ ధని స పని పగ పని సజ్జన సాధుల సన్నుత చరణ సజ్జన సాధుల సన్నుత చరణ సజ్జన సాధుల సన్నుత చరణ కుజదేవ గజాసుర హరణ బుద్ధ విశాల విజయ గజానన. శ్రీ గణేశ శివుని కుమార శిత జన వినుత ప్రభో ప్రభో शिवुनि कुमार श्रित जन विनुत प्रभो प्रभो श्रित जन विनुत प्रभो श्री गणेश शिवुनि कुमार श्रित जन विनुत प्रभो प्रभो श्रित जन विनुत प्रभो प्रभो श्रित जन विनुत प्रभो
Offering my most humble pranams and prayerful salutations at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Respected elders, dearest brothers, dear sisters, Om Sri Sai Ram, and greetings to one and all on this most auspicious occasion of the Sri Sathya Sai Aradhana Mahotsavam. Aradhana means to worship, and Mahotsavam is a festival. Hence, this day is the day that we remember the life and the teachings of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba and the impact that this has had, that our Swami has had on our lives. This is the day in which we worship the life of our dearest Swami. We welcome each and every one of you to the national observance of the Sri Sathya Sai Aradhana Mahotsavam, and we do trust that you will enjoy the evening's proceedings. The initial proceedings of tonight's program will include devotional songs offered at the divine lotus feet of our most beloved Swami. In these songs, we propitiate and praise the divine name and form of our beloved Bhagavan and the life and message that he has left for all of us, and the impact that his teachings has had on all of our lives. In the first song, Tu Pyar Sagare Hai, in which we state that he, our beloved Swami, is the eternal ocean of compassion and love, and not even a drop from this divine ocean will ever quench our thirst. We also state in this song how lucky we are to be born on this planet when Sai chose to incarnate, and even the moon and the stars will continue to sing his glory forever and ever. That he is our divine mother and father and our dearest friend. And while everyone else has deserted us, he has always stayed with us. Forever and ever, we will continue to pray to him that we will never part from him. We will then offer Madhura Mohana Ghanashama, in which we again state that beautiful form and name of our Swami is known by the giver of bliss. He is the one who is our mother, father, brother. In fact, he is our guru, God, everything. This body is his, so he may use it for spreading his love and his message. These two songs will be interspersed with experiences that our devotees in our country has had with our most beloved Bhagavan and offered to Swami on this auspicious occasion of Sri Sathya Sai Aradhana Mahotsavam. Sai.
सागर है तू प्यार का सागर है तेरी एक बूंद के प्यासे हम तेरी एक बूंद के प्यासे हम तू प्यार का सागर है तू प्यार का सागर है तेरी एक बूंद के प्यासे हम तेरी एक बूंद के प्यासे हम तू प्यार का सागर है जिस पर तुमने साई जन्म लिया तुमने जन्म लिया दीन दुखी को गले लगाया युग उपकार किया युग उपकार किया चांद और सितारे भी चांद और सितारे भी तेरी जयकार करेंगे सदा तेरी जयकार करेंगे सदा तू प्यार का सागर है हमारे माता पिता साई तुम ही प्राण सखा तुम ही प्राण सखा सब है पराए तुम ही तो अपने तुमने प्यार दिया तुमने प्यार दिया कहते ही रहेंगे सदा कहते ही रहेंगे सदा कि तुमसे हो न कभी भी जुदा कि तुमसे हो न कभी भी जुदा तू प्यार का सागर है तू प्यार का सागर है तेरी एक बूंद के प्यासे हम तेरी एक बूंद के प्यासे हम तू प्यार का सागर है तू प्यार का सागर है
My salutations at the lotus feet of my Divine Lord and Master, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Om Shri Sai Ram, my dear brothers and sisters. It is indeed quite a privilege to record on this auspicious day of the Aradhana Mahotsavam my experiences with my Divine Lord and Master. I would like to take you back to the year 2003. My family and I had just returned from Prashanti. And a few months after that, I had this desire to return to the abode of the Lord, Prashanti Nilayam. The reason for that was my huge discontent and lack of satisfaction during my trip in 2002. Well, one evening I said to my wife that I would like to go, but my wife responded that it was going to be very, very difficult for us to go because we had just returned from Prashanti and financially we were possibly not be able to. I very quite jokingly said to her, well, if both of us cannot go, then perhaps I should go myself. Well, my wife then said to me, if this is what Swami wants, that is how it's going to happen. That was the end of the conversation. Well, we went to bed. And during that night, I had this dream. I saw Swami walking in the distance, and I ran up to him. I tapped Swami in the back, and he turned around. And I said, Swami, I am coming to Prashanti. And Swami looked at me and he said, bring your wife. At that moment, I just awoke. My wife was not in bed. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. I heard some noises in the kitchen, and I went to tell her about it. And all she could say is, if this is what Swami wills, this is how it's going to happen. Well, I left it at that. About a week or so after that, for some strange reason, I had a conversation with a devotee in the Sai Prema ashram, in which this devotee just happened to mention the name of a travel agent who she thought was quite good at organizing trips to India. Well, I had left it at that. About a day or so later, I decided to call this travel agent and say to him that, I would like to go to Prashanti. And he said to me, look, it is already now in October and the tickets are going to be very, very expensive. And it may just be quite difficult to get a ticket to go to India. But I said to him, look, if this is how it's going to be, then so be it. But if it's meant to be, I will go. And I'd left it at that. A week after that, I went to the Bayview ashram for a meeting because it was now October and we were very busy with birthday celebrations. When I got back home, my wife said to me that a person called and left his details and I needed to call him. When I called, it just happened to be the travel agent. And he said to me, Mr. Naidu, I have some very good news for you. It seems as though 2 tickets have become available and at a very, very reasonable price. And I asked him, well, what was the price? And he says, it was 10,800 rands for 2 tickets. And I will never ever forget that amount. I was quite surprised and I said to him, please, you keep these tickets for me and I will come and see you the very next day. Anyway, the next day I went and I made arrangements and I bought those 2 tickets. And I thought that 10,800 rand was quite a good amount to pay for 2 tickets. Besides 10,800 rands as the number 108 in it. Skipping forward to a few months later, we land in Prashanti, and as usual, in those days when we made our trips, we took a lot of letters to give to Swami. My ego also played here because I expected to have a fantastic trip in which I would be quite accessible to the Lord. Needless to say, Swami did not accept any of my letters for my entire duration of the trip, nor did he talk to me or glance at me, and that got me feeling quite despondent. However, on the last day of the trip, I still carried the letters with me and I sat in afternoon darshan because we were leaving that evening. As Swami came out on that day with his car, I noticed that he did not go to any particular devotee. The car went directly to the veranda and Swami did not get off. I decided that I would just pray to Swami and be quite thankful for the trip and ask him for a safe return home. As I turned around, I saw Swami's car leaving the veranda. And for some strange reason, as the car neared the corner, I noticed that Swami was looking in my direction, and I did not understand what this was all about. It seems as though he was looking at me and he was trying to tell me something which seemed to be like, "Wait, I am coming." I thought this quite strange, and I felt a surge of excitement. So the car turned the corner and came around to where I was sitting. The car had stopped right in front of me. The window came down and Swami looked at me. He put his hand at the window and I put my hand also on the window, and Swami held my hand. Then he signaled to the letters. He took the letters from me and then he said, "Swami is very happy." I was so excited that Bhagwan Baba said to me that he is very, very happy. Then Swami asked, "Where are you from?" I said, "South Africa, Swami." Swami just tapped my hand. He said, "I bless you." And then he asked the driver to move away. I felt such excitement at this personal attention that my beloved Lord had given me. Obviously, my ego flared up again, because on that day I was the only person out of the thousands that were sitting there eagerly awaiting some kind of response from Bhagwan, that he would come to me and he would speak to me. Needless to say that after Swami's car had left, I just continued to sit there in the darshan and I wept like a baby. It was Brother Roy Naidu, the late Brother Roy Naidu of the Baby Sai Center, who was sitting 2 persons away from me, who then came up to me and said, "Brother, you received only what you could dream of, and you are just so privileged." That was the end of that beautiful experience. And I thank the Lord for saying to me that he is happy and that he has blessed me profusely. To this day, I still live with the blessings that he has given me. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Swami. And as I sit here in my office as a principal of Spring Secondary School, I sit in his divine company, the invisible form that we have now come to know. I narrate one of many experiences in my life, and we know that nothing happens by chance in our lives. You see, miracles take place all the time in all of our lives, and we are just not aware of it. When we become aware of it, then you smile, knowing that He is taking over and He has presented the opportunity. How fortunate we are to be blessed in this Kali Yuga when the Avatar has been born. To know of Him is a blessing. To see Him is a greater blessing. To touch Him is even a greater blessing. And to even speak to Him is a wonder of wonders. But there are blessings that we often overlook, and that is working in His organization. And more importantly, to be serving in our mission that He chooses for us. That for me is the greatest miracle of our lives. My father died at the age of 14, and it is exactly at that time that I joined the Sai organization in Springs and joined for bhajans. Went every Thursday, got involved in the organization work, and started taking up some leadership roles. I eventually took to the education wing and started teaching in Balvikas and went for training in EHV, Balvikas, and Educare. So as I was studying in my university courses, completed my degree and had a choice to become either an accountant or a teacher, and it was an obvious one to make because having been in the organization, having been exposed to so many opportunities and people and the Educare program, teaching was the automatic choice. So I worked as a teacher at Spring Secondary for about 10 years and had no interest in really becoming a leader or taking up any leadership role at school. I did apply once as a head of department, which is a position just above a teacher, but was not successful. And you realize that those opportunities were just learning experiences. And suddenly, there was openings at our school. And these are very rare opportunities because they don't come by very easily. People in the teaching fraternity stay on for ages. I mean, I'm now 32 years in the teaching game, and yeah, it's very difficult to secure a management position. So suddenly in 1998, there were many positions available. People took severance packages, and the opportunity was there. So I applied for a head of department post and also a deputy principal post at the same time. To my luck, obviously Swami's grace only, I became not a head of department but automatically a 2 positions above, and it was a deputy principal of this at the school that I am now currently teaching. So that was a big surprise, a big jump for me, and I took it with both hands, thinking that I could do Swami's work here in this place. It was not even 2 years when the principal then decided to leave his position, and I was then suddenly acting as a principal in 2001. In 2003, I was officially became the principal, and now serving almost 20 years as a principal, had the opportunity to do Swami's work through his EHV programs, his value-based lessons. And then I looked back and I realized I never wanted to become a principal, nor did I want to become a deputy or a head of department. But it was Swami's way of getting me into the organization, losing my father at a young age, and suddenly doing his work outside the organization, but his work nonetheless. And it is the greatest gift that I've had to serve as a principal, to do his value-based work in a school for the past 30 years, 20 of which were as a principal. That is not a chance. That is not a coincidence. That is pure Baba's grace and his mercy and his love. That is only that I can say. I'm most grateful to him for this opportunity to have worked so far to do his work here. And I thank him greatly. Jai Sai Ram.
ओ साईं माँ, हम बच्चों की प्यारी माँ, हम बच्चों की प्यारी माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ, साईं माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ। ओ साईं माँ, ओ साईं माँ। तेरे प्यार में हम पलते हैं, फूलों जैसे हम खिलते हैं। तेरे प्यार में हम पलते हैं, फूलों जैसे हम खिलते हैं। जब भी माँ तेरी याद सताए, रो रो कर ये दिल बस गाए। ओ साईं माँ, ओ साईं माँ, ओ साईं माँ, ओ साईं माँ। तेरे बिन हमें कोई न भाए, हर पल माँ हम तुझको चाहे। तेरे बिन हमें कोई न भाए, हर पल माँ हम तुझको चाहे। संकट की जब बेला आए, साई साई दिल ही पुकारे। ओ साई माँ, ओ साई माँ, ओ साई माँ, ओ साईं माँ। हम बच्चों की प्यारी माँ, हम बच्चों की प्यारी माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ, प्यारी माँ साईं माँ।
The next part of our evening's proceedings is an address by our guest speaker, Dr. Rajan Kupan. Dr. Kupan is a familiar name amongst all devotees in our country. He has served as the former president of the Sri Sathya Sai Central Council of South Africa previously, and he also has been an active member of the organization for many decades. Dr. Kupan also is a practicing medical doctor and has been for the past 40 years. Dr. Kupan will enlighten us on the message that Sri Sathya Sai Aradhana Mahotsavam has for all of us. We will then seek Swami's divine benediction through his divine discourse.
Om Sai Ram, dear devotees. Greetings to all of you. This 24th of April is a day we remember as the day that the Sathya Sai avatar took leave of his physical body and once again became the indivisible, supreme, absolute Parabrahman. He always was that, but chose to incarnate for our benefit in a human body, that we may aspire toward the goal that he has alerted us to. Now, when we observe a special day like today, whatever name we may give it, that doesn't really matter. It should not be the day that he took Mahasamadhi. In reality, Mahasamadhi is a concept for souls that have made that journey. This is a being that is always established in that unitary consciousness. He is the infinite consciousness. He is that ever-expansive, eternal being on which the whole universe depends on. And so, from that perspective, we need to take a better look at what it means for us as devotees to have lived as a contemporary of an avatar in human form. Now, this is a special gift that we have had given to us by Bhagwan by virtue of the great spiritual merit we probably would have earned in other lifetimes. And so to get that privilege, that honor to be born at the same time as an avatar is a very, very unique opportunity. We know that throughout his life, there have been many astounding changes that have happened on the planet, and much of it we probably won't even recognize because we are unaware of it. But nevertheless, we do know from the different narrations of stories told by devotees in many parts of the world of how this omnipresent being has effected change in so many different ways, protecting the devotee of God and bringing about a change in the life of so many, many people. The true miracle of the Sathya Sai avatar is the fact that he enters people's lives and begins to turn their minds. He begins to unmake their minds and remake it in the divine mold, following a Godward path rather than a material path. Now, when we explore this story of the Sathya Sai avatar, when we start to go back into the history of where he was born and the amazing leelas that he manifested for the benefit of devotees, then we really are engaging the process of what is called Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is a concept where we begin to recall and retell the stories of devotees who've had the benefit of an avatar or a god form coming into their lives, rescuing them, lifting them up, and saving them from many a tragedy that could have befallen them. And it is also the study of the devotion that was evoked from these devotees who turned to an avatar. Each one of us, in a way, has our own Bhagavatam. If you recall your association with Bhagwan, then this story of your soul's journey with the avatar in human form is your Bhagavatam. By recalling the Bhagavatam, and this is one of the really amazing gifts that Swami has unpacked to us, when we recall the Bhagavatam of any of the God avatars or God forms, then what happens to us is that we begin to develop faith in this unseen force that we call God. We develop faith and for us it would be in the Sathya Sai avatar, that he is ever present in our lives, guiding us, guarding us, directing us. And even though we may not understand every detail of how he does that, faith, suffice it to say, gives us this ability to turn to the avatar in complete surrender, knowing that our lives are totally in his hand. Nothing moves, not a blade of grass moves without his will. And he has assured us that he who turns toward me, that is Baba or Krishna or Rama, whichever version we choose to relate to, then I take care of all his needs and wants and security. And so this directing our attention, our awareness to who the avatar is, can give us great progress in our spiritual journey toward our own experience of being God, of knowing we are God, experiencing that we are God. Now, the avatar doesn't come just for effecting this kind of change. In fact, the avataric mission in this particular age, in the Kali Yuga, is a massive shift of the consciousness of mankind toward a time known as the Golden Age. And Swami, before he left his body, did indicate to us that by 2024, there would be unprecedented peace on the planet. But before that, we need to be ready for whatever the changes that need to happen. The Golden Age, as given by Baba, was actually initiated in 2010, on his birthday. And it was during that time that he mentioned that the Golden Age had started. Now, is the Golden Age a specific period of time? Well, absolutely not, because Swami said the Golden Age is wherever your mind and awareness is. If it is focused on the qualities of the Kali Yuga, then you are in the Kali Yuga. If it is focused on the qualities required of the Golden Age, those 5 human values, the way we extend compassion, forgiveness, fortitude, patience, tolerance, all of those qualities, then you will be living in the Golden Age, even though what might be happening around you is still Kali Yuga energy. And so remember that, devotee, that Swami has already graced us with this opportunity of ushering in the Golden Age. Each one of us has our role to play in his mission. Now, it's quite important that, amidst all the turmoil happening in the world, that we do not lose sight of this formidable force that is amongst us, that we know as Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Devotees of other religions may know him by other names, but that does not matter. The fact that we turn to God at this time gives us the strength, the courage, the patience, the fortitude, and the confidence to navigate this time. Huge upheavals are happening to almost everyone on the planet. Huge systems that we took for granted are collapsing and dismantling right before our eyes. Nothing is going to be the same as it was before. Whether you think it was from COVID or these cyclonic storms or the other extreme weather patterns going on in different parts of the world, wars in different parts of the world. When you look at your feedback mechanism, which is really your television and the different news programs that you engage with, all it tells you is that there's death and destruction and breakdown of everything around you. Now, that is a necessity that has to happen for us before we can begin to experience and engage with the Golden Age in a more complete way. And so what then and how is it that we should remember this day, the day that Swami took leave of us in the physical form? What is it that we would need to remember and how we would engage this remembrance? Certainly it would not be to mourn the passing of our beloved Bhagwan, much as we would miss him physically. Those of you who lived in South Africa know that unless you've physically been to Prashanthi Nilayam, then you would have had that benefit of engaging with Swami in the physical form. And indeed, for many of us who've had that grace, it was a wonderful darshan of being able to be in the same presence of the avatar. But for thousands of devotees who know of Swami, have never been to Prashanthi, their devotion is as great, and it is in fact even more meaningful that they would have that kind of devotion even though they've never physically seen Swami and been in his presence. Maybe by video, etc., photographs, we could have seen that, but to have that devotion is an awesome achievement in its own right. Now, the presence of the avatar in our life has brought about different changes, but like anything, it can, in time, become a bit jaded. We forget who this being really is. We forget that he is an omnipresent, indivisible, supreme, absolute being. He's omnipotent. He can create, destroy, sustain, transform at will. He's omniscient. He knows everything, the past, the present, the future. And he has omnifelicity, the same universal love to all of creation. Now, when we begin to understand that, then our faith remains alive. It's so easy to become jaded in this time of the world where material things are taking our attention away. We're concerned about loss of job, loss of finances, loss of life, loss of everything around us. That can shake our faith, and it is only by turning back to what Swami has gifted us as our prasadam, and that is follow what he has taught us to do. So in this time, the most important attribute that we will have to work with is the Bhagavatam. It is the process of daily feeding yourself through your senses about the life of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba or any of the other avatars. And we have so much of material, books, discourses, stories told by devotees who have experienced his grace, any of these things, but a daily diet of feeding on the Bhagavatam. Those of you who were gifted enough to write down your experiences whilst you were in Puttaparthi, in Prashanthi, in your interviews, etc., that little narration of these little experiences with Bhagwan is your Bhagavatam. It's a personalized Bhagavatam. Not anyone else on the planet would have had that experience. And so, recalling your time with Swami, remembering the words, remembering his gestures, remembering how he walked amongst us, remembering how he fostered us in our difficult times, brought us through adversity, saved our lives, whichever way you can remember it, feed yourself on that. In this time of the Kali Yuga, this phase of the Kali Yuga, your faith has to be infinitely stronger. You cannot allow it to waver because of ... The faith has to be reinforced, and it can only be reinforced if you're feeding yourself on the Leelas of Swami, on the pastimes of Swami, on the miracles of Swami, and the Upadesh, the teachings of Swami. And so going back to certain books that give us that information, the Sathya Sai Speaks, there's The Loving God by Professor Kasturi, Ishwarama, the Chosen Mother, beautiful narrations of the early days of who Bhagavan was. And unless you immerse yourself in that and begin to live those moments with Swami in that time, or even your own personal Bhagavatam, then only does this experience of this being come alive in your life. Just sitting and singing bhajans every week, listening to a discourse here and there, doing a bit of seva, none of those, whilst they are important sadhanas for us, none of those builds the faith. It is an amazing fountain at which we drink every week or whatever frequency you engage it. But Swami said something very, very telling on one occasion. And this story was narrated by one of his students that was attending to him in his room. It was evening, Swami had retired, and he went into a kind of a silence, never talked for many, many, many minutes, almost like an hour. And then he would walk up and down his room doing a bit of exercise. And during that time, he started saying something that the boys listened to very carefully and remembered. And he basically said that I have come, but very few will board my plane and leave with me, will come to where I want to take them. And then he said something that became our mantra, the Brahmananda mantra. He said, you just have to say, I am God, I am God. I am not different from God. I am the Akhanda Parabrahman. I am Sat Chit Ananda. Grief and anxiety can never affect me. I am ever content. Fear can never enter me. Now that mantra is the mantra of this time in the Kali Yuga. We have to remind ourselves that we are God. And Swami said all these singing the bhajans, doing the projects, none of those, whilst they are sadhanas and give us that purification, they don't bring you into this arena where you and Swami can literally vibrate at the same frequency, become one with Swami. And so on a day like this where we remember Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, it is a day when we should commit ourselves to developing that intense faith as to who he is and practice those qualities of divinity. In other words, can you see the world through the eyes of an avatar? Becoming the avatar yourself and witnessing how this world works, the world of love, the world of compassion, the world of caring, the world of serving others, all of those things. For often we practice these things, but our attention and awareness is still dwelling in the three-dimensional material world. We have the idea that we are devotees of Sai, but we do not experience that grace of what it means to be that devotee of Sai. And so it requires a much, much more intense effort on our part. You know what it is that you have to do. Swami has given it to you in any number of ways. But to practice it is what we need to engage in now. And so on this particular day, if you are observing it, then think about these words that I have shared with you and about how we can, in fact, draw ourselves vibrationally closer to Bhagavan. Just the faith alone is enough to shift the game for you and for you to then engage the upcoming golden age. So with that, I'd like to wish all of you great peace and love and happiness in your individual lives and the lives of your family, and to always remember that we are blessed in that we have Bhagavan as our eternal companion, and we are all on a journey back home. Jai Sai Ram.
I close my eyes, a different world appears. A vision of Sai my inner eye beholds. And then I rise beyond all grief and fears to holy heights as Sai lifts my soul. And now I can see His grace in everything and every place. He's in me, around me, He surrounds me, above me, below me, He does know me. This light is growing as He does show me the truth, bright as the sun. Sai and I are one. Sai and I are one. He's heard my cries, heard each and every prayer. He's been my guide, He stood beside me. I open my eyes, I see Sai everywhere, in all the beings and all the things I see. And now I can see His grace in everything and every place. He's in me, around me, He surrounds me, above me, below me, He does know me. This light is growing as He does show me the truth, bright as the sun. Sai and I are one. Sai and I are one. He's in me, around me, He surrounds me, above me, below me, He does know me. This light is growing as He does show me the truth, bright as the sun. Sai and I are one. 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 Sai and I are one.
ప్రేమస్వరూపులారా,
embodiments of love,
విద్యార్థులారా,
students,
విద్యార్థినీయులారా,
boys and girls,
మీరు తెలుసుకోవాల్సినటువంటిది ఏకత్వమైనటువంటి ఒక దివ్యత్వాన్ని.
what you are supposed to know is this, the point oneness, the unity, divinity.
ఆ ఒకదానిని మీరు కలుసుకుంటే అన్నీ చూసిన వారు అవుతారు.
If you know this fundamental one divinity, you will be knowing rest.
ప్రాపంచికంగా భిన్నంగా కనిపించినప్పటికీ,
this world may be dual,
కానీ దివ్యమైనటువంటి దాంట్లో ఏకత్వంగానే ఉండాలి.
but in the spiritual sense, it is only one that exists.
ఎక్కడ చూసినా జగత్తు లోపల ప్రతిబింబములే మనకు కనిపిస్తున్నాయి, కానీ
everywhere we find reflections.
అందరూ ప్రతిబింబ స్వరూపులే.
all are reflections.
ఈ ప్రతిబింబాలు తండ్రిగా భావించుకుంటున్నారు.
you consider the reflections as reality.
అది ఏనాడు నీవు వదులుతువో అప్పుడే నీకు నీ యొక్క బింబం నీకు పూర్తిగా కనిపిస్తుంది.
The moment you understand the reality of the reflection, you will know the truth of oneness.
ఒక చిన్న ఉదాహరణ తీసుకోండి.
A small example.
ఒక అద్దం తీసుకొని నీ ముఖాన్ని నీవు చూసుకో.
Watch your own face in front of the mirror.
అయ్యో, ఇది నా ముఖమేనే అంటున్నావు.
Then is this my face? A question may come.
అయితే నీవెవరు?
Then who are you?
ఇది నీ ముఖమే అయినప్పుడు ఆ ముఖంలో ఉన్నటువంటి వారు కొత్త వారు కాదే.
When you say that's your face, the one there is not separate.
రెండు ఒకటే.
Both are one actually.
ఇట్టి ఏకత్వమును భిన్నత్వంగా భావించి పొరపడుతుండేది నీవే.
In fact, this oneness is mistaken. It's because of your own mistake in thought.
కనుక మన తత్వాన్ని మనము గుర్తించుకోలేకపోతున్నాము.
We are not able to know our true nature.
నీవెవరు?
Who are you?
నీవే తాను.
In fact, you are.
తానే నీవు.
In fact, you are.
నీవు తాను రెండు చేరితే ఒకటైపోయింది.
You and he are one.
కనుక ఇట్టి ఏకత్వాన్ని మనము భిన్నత్వంగా భావించుకొని మనమే పొరపడిపోతున్నాం.
Therefore, we are mistaken considering this unity as
ప్రతి విషయం నందు కూడాను ఇట్టి రిఫ్లెక్షన్ రియాక్షన్ రీసౌండ్లోనే
in every matter you come across this reaction, reflection and resound.
కనుక మనం ఈ రిఫ్లెక్షన్ రియాక్షన్ రీసౌండ్కు చోటే ఇవ్వకూడదు.
So we should never give scope for these three: reaction, reflection, resound.
నా దేహం ఇది నా దేహం అని భావిస్తున్నాను, కానీ ఈ దేహం నాది కాదు.
You have body identification. In fact, you are not the body.
ఈ దేహం నీవు కాదు.
You are not the body.
నీకు ఈ భావము భ్రమగా కనిపిస్తుంటుంది.
It is only your own feeling of body identification.
ఈ భ్రమనే నీవు అనుకుంటే ఇంక నీవెక్కడున్నావు?
This is only your illusion, imagination. Where else you exist?
నీ యొక్క ప్రతిబింబాన్ని నీవుగా కనిపించినప్పుడు నీకు ప్రతిబింబం ఎక్కడ ఉంది?
Where is your reflection then?
కనుక పిల్లలందరూ కూడా చక్కగా చూసుకోవాలి. ఎక్కడ చూసేది కూడా మీ యొక్క ప్రతిబింబంలే కానీ వేరు కాదు.
Students should understand this clearly. All over.
మీరు ఇప్పుడు చూస్తున్నట్టు సాయిబాబా 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 అనుకుంటున్నారు.
You all say Sai Baba.
కానీ నేను సాయిబాబాని కాదు.
Bhagavan is not Sai Baba.
నేను మీరే, మీరు నేనే.
In fact, Swami is you. You are Bhagavan.
ఈ సత్యాన్ని పూర్తి మీరు గుర్తించండి.
Know this truth clearly.
గుర్తించుకుంటే ఇంక భేదములే మీకు ఉండవు.
Then there will be no differences at all.
నీవే ఒక చెంప కొట్టుకో.
Just slap yourself.
నీవు చెంప కొట్టుకుంటే ఎవరికి దెబ్బ తగిలింది?
Then who is hurt when you slap yourself?
నీకే దెబ్బ తగిలింది.
Yes, you are hurting yourself.
వాడిని ఎవరినో నేను కొట్టాననుకుంటున్నావు.
You think that you are slapped by someone else.
ఎవరినో కాదు, నీవే కొట్టుకున్నావు.
In fact, you are hurting yourself.
కనుక ప్రతి ఒక్కటి కూడా ఒకరిని మనం దూషించావు.
You have accused someone.
కానీ అతన్ని దూషించినట్టుగా నీవు భావిస్తున్నావు.
You considered it so.
వాణ్ణి కాదు నీవు దూషించింది, నీవే దూషించుకున్నావు.
You are criticizing, accusing your own self.
ప్రతి ఒక్కటి కూడాను జరిగే చర్యలన్నీ కూడాను నీవు చేసుకునేటువంటివే కానీ పరులవి కాదు.
All our actions are of our own making. They don't belong to anybody.
మీరందరూ కూడాను పరులుగా భావిస్తున్నావు.
You consider that someone else or
పరులే లేరు.
There are no other person.
అంతా ఉండేది ఒక్కరే.
Only one that exists.
మీరందరూ కలిసి ఒకరిని చెప్పగలరు.
How do you say that you are one when there are so many around?
కనుక ఇవన్నీ కూడా నీ భావంతో పెట్టుకుంటే అందరూ వేరు వేరైనారు.
It is only because your approach, your outlook that makes you feel
నీవు
diverse.
కొన్ని ఒక 5,000
Embodiments of divine Atma.
ఈ ఆత్మ అనేది ఒక్కటే.
Atma is only one.
రెండు అనేటువంటి ఆత్మలు లేవు.
There are no two selves.
అందరి యందు ఉన్నది ఒక్కటే. ఈ ఒక్కటే అనేటువంటి సత్యాన్ని గుర్తించు.
Know this, only one self.
ఎవరికెవరు భేదములు కూడా ఉండవు.
There will be no differences.
ఎవరికెవరు దేశములు కూడా ఉండవు.
You don't hate anybody.
ఈ దేశములు భేదములు పోవాలనుకుంటే నీవన్నిట్లో ఉన్నావంటూ భావించు.
Therefore consider that the same self exists in everybody. There will be no differences at all when once you know the self.
కనుక నీ ఏకత్వం అని మాత్రం నువ్వు గుర్తించు.
So recognize this oneness.
ఈ డివైన్ అని పెట్టుకున్నప్పుడు అందరూ డివైన్ స్వరూపులే.
All are embodiments of the divine.
నేను మీరే, మీరు నేనే.
In fact, Bhagavan and you are one.
ఈ విధమైనటువంటి ఏకత్వాన్ని మీరు పెంచుకుంటూ పోండి.
Go on thinking, improving this idea of
మీరు
oneness.
నాకంటే మీరు వేరుగా లేరు.
You are not separate from Bhagavan.
నేను మీకంటే వేరుగా లేను.
Bhagavan is not separate from you.
నేను నీవు ఇద్దరు ఒక్కటే.
In fact, you and I are one.
దీనిని ఏకత్వంగా భావించుకొని పోండి. తప్పక కొన్ని దినాలకు ఇద్దరు ఒకటి అయిపోతారు.
When once you go on strengthening this identification with God, more and more ponder over it, experience, you become one.
అప్పుడే మీకు ఈ భేదం పూర్తి నశించిపోతుంది.
Then the differences will certainly vanish.
ఈ సత్యాన్ని మీరు గుర్తించుకొని వర్తించినప్పుడే మీకు ఏకత్వం కూడా అర్థమవుతుంది.
When once you know this truth, understand the reality, you can experience.
నారాయణ భజ నారాయణ, నారాయణ భజ నారాయణ, నారాయణ నారాయణ.
Muradari Narayan
We would now like to express our gratitude. Firstly, we express our gratitude to our most beloved Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba for all of his love and guidance in all of our lives. We would also like to express our gratitude to Swami for affording us this most golden opportunity in offering at his divine lotus feet this 2-day program on the holy occasion of Shri Sathya Sai Aradhana Mahotsavam. For the offering of the Shri Sathya Sai Pancharatna Kritis, we would like to express our gratitude to the musicians and artists that performed and offered these Pancharatna Kritis for the very first time in South Africa. Our sincere gratitude to you all. To Mr. Sudha Singh and African Lotus Productions and Acoustic Sounds, we express our gratitude to you for all the assistance that you provided in the compilation of these Pancharatna Kritis. We express our gratitude to Dr. Rajan Kupan, the guest speaker for our evening program tonight, for his address on the importance and significance of Aradhana Mahotsavam Day. Dearest Dr. Kupan, our sincere thanks to you for that most wondrous and amazing address, highlighting the importance of this auspicious occasion. To those devotees that shared their personal experiences with our most beloved Bhagavan, our sincere thanks to both of you. Also, we would like to express our gratitude to the national media team for the assistance that they provided for the compilation of this 2-day program. And lastly, we would like to thank you, our dearest brothers and sisters, devotees of our most beloved Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, for witnessing these past 2 days proceedings. We do trust that you have benefited from the content that has been shared with you over the past 2 days. We will now conclude this evening's proceedings with bhajans, which will then be followed by Mangala Arati. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.
Parama Guru Sai
माता भवानी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी कारुण्य लावण्य अखिलांडेश्वरी कारुण्य लावण्य अखिलांडेश्वरी कारुण्य लावण्य अखिलांडेश्वरी कारुण्य लावण्य अखिलांडेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी हे शिव शंकरी त्रिलोकपालिनी हे शिव शंकरी त्रिलोकपालिनी हे शिव शंकरी त्रिलोकपालिनी हे शिव शंकरी त्रिलोकपालिनी शरणागत परिपालिनी माता शरणागत परिपालिनी माता शरणागत परिपालिनी माता शरणागत परिपालिनी माता जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी कारुण्य लावण्य अखिलांडेश्वरी कारुण्य लावण्य अखिलांडेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी हे शिव शंकरी त्रिलोकपालिनी हे शिव शंकरी त्रिलोकपालिनी शरणागत परिपालिनी माता शरणागत परिपालिनी माता शरणागत परिपालिनी माता शरणागत परिपालिनी माता जगदीश्वरी जय माता भवानी
साई राम घनश्याम भगवान तुम्हारा नाम साई राम घनश्याम भगवान तुम्हारा नाम साई राम घनश्याम भगवान तुम्हारा नाम साई राम घनश्याम भगवान तुम्हारा तुम बिन कोई नहीं रखवाले तुम बिन कोई नहीं रखवाले, तुम बिन कोई नहीं आपत सहारे, तुम बिन प्रेम कोई नहीं देने वाले, तुम हो मेरे आत्मा राम बाबा, भगवान तुम्हारा साई राम तुम्हारा साई राम घनश्याम भगवान तुम्हारा
हरे कृष्ण हरे राम साई राम साई राम,
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 गोपाल गोविंद बोलो जय साई राम,
गोपाल गोविंद बोलो जय साई राम,
माधव मुकुंद बोलो जय साई राम,
मुकुंद बोलो जय साई राम,
हे परमेश्वर पति पुरीश्वर दया करो हे साई राम,
परमेश्वर पति पुरीश्वर दया करो हे साई राम,
हे परमेश्वर पति पुरीश्वर दया करो हे साई राम,
परमेश्वर पति पुरीश्वर दया करो हे साई राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम बोलो, जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
हरे कृष्ण हरे राम साई राम साई राम,
हरे कृष्ण हरे राम साई राम साई राम,
गोपाल गोविंद बोलो जय साई राम,
गोपाल गोविंद बोलो जय साई राम,
माधव सरस्वती पुरीश्वर दया करो हे साई राम,
परमेश्वर पति पुरीश्वर दया करो हे साई राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम बोलो,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम बोलो,
जय जय राम साई राम जय जय राम,
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 हरे कृष्ण हरे राम साई राम साई राम, गोपाल गोविंद बोलो जय साई राम।
ओम मुरुगा ओम முருகா வடிவேலழகா.
ప్రేమ స్వరూపులైన విద్యార్థులారా, ప్రైమరీ స్కూలు, కాలేజీ, హైయర్ సెకండరీ స్కూల్ పిల్లలంతా కూడా నా వెంటనే ఉంటుంటారు. నన్ను వదిలి వారు పోరు, వారిని వదిలి నేను ఉండలేను. అందరూ మంచి బంగారు. నా పిల్లల యొక్క పరిస్థితి నాకు తెలుసు, కానీ మరొకరు తెలియదు. పిల్లలందరూ కూడాను స్వామి అంటే ప్రాణం ఇస్తున్నారు. అందువల్ల వారికి నేను ఎప్పుడైనా సరే నేను వారిని ప్రాణసంరక్షణ చేస్తాను. పిల్లలందరూ కూడా సుక్షేమంగా జీవించాలి. మీరు ఎక్కడుండినా కూడా నేను వెంట జంట ఇంట ఉంటాను. రేపటి నుంచి కూడాను మీరు ఏ పని చేసినా కానీ ఇది స్వామి పని, స్వామి పని, స్వామి పని అనుకొని చేయండి. మీ భావములు ఎవరు కూడాను, తల్లిదండ్రులు కూడాను అర్థం చేసుకోవటం లేదు. అది నాకొక్కరికి మాత్రమే తెలుసు. మీరందరూ కూడా క్షేమంగా సుక్షేమంగా దినదిన ప్రవర్తమానులై పెరగండి బంగారు. మీ ఫ్యూచరు, మీ ప్రజెంట్ నేను చూసుకుంటాను. నాకు వేరే స్థానం ఎక్కడా లేదు. మీ హృదయాలే నా యొక్క స్థానం. నా మనసంతా కూడాను నిరంతరము పిల్లలపైనే ఉన్నది. మీరు లేకపోతే నేను లేను.
Swami openly declares, without you, Swami is non-existent.
కనుక నేనుంటే మీరు, మీరుంటే నేను. I and you are one. I and you are one.
श्रीनारायण पुरुषोत्तम गुरु
सतो मा सत्यमया तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमया.
ओम जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्ति महेश्वर. ओम जय जगदीश हरे शिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपति स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपति आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका अवतारणव. ओम जय जगदीश हरे माता पिता गुरुदैवं पर्यन्तयो नीवे स्वामी पर्यन्तयो नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्राशरण. ओम जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप साई महादेव सत्य साई महादेव मंगल आरती अंधुको मंगल आरती अंधुको वंदन गिरिधारी. ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा. शांति 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 समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु. शांति शांति शांति. जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय.
परमं पवित्रं
परमं पवित्रं विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थमिष्टार्थं मोक्षप्रदानं भावविभूतिं इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं भावविभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थमिष्टार्थं मोक्षप्रदानं भावविभूतिं इदमाश्रयामि
ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् 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 ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्